Welcome back to the Fan Speak Network and another episode of the NFL Betting Card. This is the divisional round. We have 4 games that we're previewing, so there's 4 of us here. So, of course, I'm joined every week by Spread and Tyler. And this week we get a special guest, Jayme. You can follow him at Heyo Sports on Twitter. So all 4 of us, it takes 4 of us to break down this very fun slate. We need actually 3 of us to talk Spread into thinking that this is going to be a fun slate, I guess I should say. But anyways, let me say hi to the guys. Spread, how are you doing? And I know I've heard you on another show or 2 this week already saying that this is not going to be a good weekend of playoff football. I'm here to tell you it's going to be okay, and we're going to have some good stuff to watch. Do you believe me yet, or do we have more work to do?
Well, Meg, right now, I feel like one of those celebrities on the apology tour. You know, when a celebrity messes up, right, and they have to go on Good Morning America and Oprah, right, and they have to do this huge apology tour and talk about what they've done and how they're in therapy to address it. That's what I've had to do after pounding the chest for Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott, and the Dallas Cowboys. So it's been a rough week for me. My confidence is a little shattered, but I'm here. I've made the apologies, and I'm ready to move forward after all this time in therapy this week.
Well, there's no need to apologize. I was right there with you with that. So Jayme can tell us how wrong we were, of course. As a Packers fan, we'll get to that in a minute. I love Tyler's background. Tyler, I'll go to you next. How are you doing? And are you ready for this divisional round?
No, I'm ready for the divisional round. I have to start it off with tried to warn you guys. Spread was beating his chest for Dallas, and I was trying to wave my arms over here like, hey, I'm trying to save you. Please don't go over there. It's going to end bad. Spread went over there with a big bully Jordan Love was, and he got bullied by Jordan Love. So
yeah, I got beat up. I went to the wrong neighborhood at the wrong time. That's for sure.
It happens to the best of us. I tried to save my guy, but I'll save him next time. I'm just going to drag him away next time.
You did. I wasn't listening to you.
Tyler, I've given you full authority for this sheet this week.
And now, Jayme, we have to go to you. You are a Packers fan. Yep. We talked preseason about Packers Lions. I would like to let you know, as a Washington fan, I have fully adopted, I'm sorry to say this in front of you, the Lions as my playoff team, since I had them so highly in best ball this year. Why not go with the underdog? Got their first playoff win in 32 years. I'm into a good underdog story. So with that said, though, I love watching your Packers. I am blown away by Jordan Love. I cannot believe you get to have 3 franchise quarterbacks. I don't know how Packers fans are so blessed. You're sitting on a panel with Spread and I, who don't know if I've ever had truly one franchise quarterback ever. So that is awesome. But yeah,
man, come on.
We'll talk that after. But no, Jayme, your Packers are awesome, and I'm excited to talk it all with you today. What are you thinking about your Packers this week, and how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. Yeah, good to be on with you guys again. Not much to say really. It's been said. My guy Tyler, he definitely let you guys know last week. I was watching it, and then afterwards, I slid into Tyler's DMs too, and I was like, my man, they just don't know. They just don't know. And they gave Spread a little bit of crap too. But I don't know if it's luck. I don't know if it's just the organization. They kind of figured out what to do. Draft a quarterback when you don't really need him, let him sit behind a little bit, and it's worked out. I feel not as good about this game this week as I did against Dallas, obviously. Yeah. But we'll get into that. I'm excited to touch base on it.
Yeah. Well, obviously when the Jordan Love pick happened, everybody, including Aaron Rodgers, was shocked and some appalled. But the Aaron Rodgers experience worked for him, and now is working for Jordan Love. And as a fan, we wish there was almost the luxury that more teams could do this, right? Like almost have like a little quarterback minor league system or something where they could sit and learn for 3 or 4 years. Because we see the results for your 2 Packers franchise quarterbacks. It works being able to sit and learn. It's just we don't have the patience in the NFL with these rookies, and that's why so many unfortunately flame out. So
it's true.
A lot of that, Meg, is the rookie quarterback scale, and the NFL is a copycat league. And when Russell Wilson was able to leave that Legion of Boom team, and the year escapes me off the top of my head, right? It was with 2010, 2011. That was kind of the formula teams decided to follow.
12. He was in the I know this, same rookie class as RG3, Andrew Luck, Kirk Cousins. That was quite a rookie class.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you. So you see that when the mold was set there, a lot of these teams said, hey, we can get 3 to 4 extra like quality, above average players at each position by running with the rookie quarterback. So the way the salary caps worked, Russell Wilson showed that, one way to attack this is to have a quarterback in his first 5 years and load up the rest of your lot.
Well, and obviously CJ Stroud is showing that this year as well.
Yeah, right.
That it can happen. It's just, I think, more of an outlier to happen. Sure. So anyways, Spread, have you come on board yet that we have some good football to watch this weekend? Because on a couple of the basketball shows this week, it didn't sound good.
Okay, we have 3 spreads that are above a touchdown. Okay, one of them is 6 points. It just feels like, okay, you guys make the same. I haven't come on board yet, but I'm here.
I'll make my quick sell. Like, I think obviously in the AFC, I think we're going to have good games. These are now the top 4 out of the 6 quarterbacks in the AFC. Just elite quarterback play and just good games to watch. I don't actually think we're going to have a ton of points necessarily. I don't think we're going to have the 2020, whatever that was, 21 playoffs with the Gabe Davis, the 13 seconds, the whole Chiefs Bills thing. I don't think we're going to get that. I think we're going to get the other versions that we've got of Bills Chiefs that are just close and good games. So AFC, I think you're going to get good games. NFC, I think you're going to see points. They may still have big spreads, or larger margins or something, and may not come down to the wire, but I think we're going to get points in both NFC games. So that's my sales pitch. Tyler, Jayme, do you have any sales pitch to spread?
I agree with you 100%. I think all the games, I think every single game could end up being a closer game than most people think. Like even Houston, Baltimore, that's a potential. Packers and 49ers could be. And I agree. I think we're going to see points in the NFC for sure. It shows that by the totals as well. But I really think we're going to see a lot of points there. And then KC Buffalo, that's just a classic game, right? That's
right. That's classic. So we got a main event for sure.
Yeah.
This is an interesting week. This happens every year, and we're going to continue to play that game. There's certain things we always debate in sports gambling, sports betting, sports prognostication. And that is the rested, statistically superior team, when I run my numbers, going against the hot team that's exceeding what my statistics are going to project, right? Because Jayme, we were talking, and then you say stuff like, well, since week 9, right? Is that the one you sent me?
Yep.
And you show me that essentially this is the best offense in the NFL.
Yep.
I don't sort by since week 9 though. Do you see what I'm saying?
So
it becomes tough. Should I be doing that? Am I leaving money on the table? How do we approach these teams that we know are good? We know the San Francisco 49ers are good. We know the Baltimore Ravens are good. Rest first rest.
Sure.
What do we do?
Sure. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think with the Packers, it gives you a bit of a caveat, right? That they are such a young team, the youngest team in the NFL by far, all first and second years players, Jordan Love, inexperienced quarterback. Generally speaking, right? We know with rookie quarterbacks, even from a fantasy perspective, that generally rookie players end up panning out later out in the season, right? Generally it's more of your veterans do better, and then your rookie wide receivers late get a good push, or rookie running backs late get a good push. And so I think the fact that the Green Bay was such an inexperienced team and such a young team, that it might be easier. I'm not saying it maybe is the right thing, but I think it's easier to kind of not ignore, but kind of focus more on the second half of the season when this team kind of fully did get a stride. Of course, you can't do that for all teams, right? You can't do that for, veteran type teams, but a team like Green Bay, I think it's okay to kind of look from week 9, they've been, such and such, which we'll get into here in a bit. But I think Green Bay is a team that you could do that for, but I get it, right? When you're running your model, you're not, NFL is such a small sample size as it is. So it's now you're going to cut that sample in half, and now you're looking at 8 games, right? I totally get what you're saying there, but I think for Green Bay that it is okay to do that.
And Houston's the same way.
In Houston's the same way, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Am I surprised that Houston won? No, I made the late push for Houston on this show last week, right? And I said, hey, I changed my mind during the week. We went on the review show on Monday, and I said, I like Cleveland. And then as I looked more into the matchup, I liked Houston. Wasn't surprised they won. But to win in that fashion against that defense, I mean, I told you, I don't think their defense is going to be as good on the road. That's still a quality defense, and that was a huge statement that CJ Stroud and the Texans made.
I did not give enough credit. I had heard last week about the home road splits and I know you'll talk about home road splits a lot in basketball, and we talk about some in NFL too, but I had heard a lot of talk about home road splits. I think we brought it up here. You brought it up here, I believe, Spread, about that the Browns defense do not play as well on the road. And boy, did I underestimate that one, because that really,
at the same time, the home road splits were what really made me love Dallas.
So,
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
They give it and then they took it away.
Yes.
Sunday
They
afternoon.
definitely give it and take it away. That is absolutely for sure. Any other, topics to talk about before we dive in game by game here, and then we'll find the spreads, totals alike, and then afterwards we will still obviously go through and find a couple props and anytime touchdowns that we want to talk about too, so that way we're hitting everything on the NFL betting card that we typically do. Anything else?
Let's dive in, and if stuff comes up, it comes up.
Perfect.
We got plenty to
dive in.
dig
We'll still
into.
spread on the games there.
Okay. All right. Yeah, there we go. I like it, Tyler. Okay. Of course, first we have in my city and here in Baltimore, we're going to have some wind here in Baltimore. I believe it is going to be 15-mile-an-hour sustained, some gusts up to 25. But in Baltimore, you have Houston at the Ravens. The Ravens are favored by 9.5. Total on this one is 43.5. So I'll go around the horn here, Spread. Go to you first. What are you thinking? Anything standing out to you in this big spread?
I already gave it a little bit, but rest here. Texans come in hot. Ravens, well rested. They've also statistically been the best team in the NFL this year. And I know we're making a lot of that December 25th game, but I can't get that game against the 49ers out of my mind. So, it's tough to go against Baltimore here. However, I was surprised. I didn't think this line was going to be so big. And maybe it came out for a reason, because I was expecting about Baltimore, but I was expecting it to be in the 6.5, 7.5 range. It came out at around 9.5. It's been around here all week. I have it as an 11, 10.5 point edge for the Texans. So using projections isn't going to help me much. I'm just going to dive right in. And I'll be honest, I'm not loving either side. So I'd love to hear what you guys think.
Well, around the horn we go. Tyler, over to you next. What are you thinking for this one?
I think the 9.5 is extremely too many points. I think that is the easiest bet of Wild Card Weekend. And you better sprinkle on their money line, because Houston's going to make this a very close game, and I have a weird feeling they're going to win it.
Ooh.
Baltimore is yet to lay an egg all year. They've looked good, but have they looked like world beaters outside of the San Francisco game? A lot of us sat here and watched them play. We had a lot of questions about them. They would sneak out of games, end up winning. They get the job done, but they never looked like very elite teams. They sit their starters in week 18. They don't play last week. Everyone will tell you, oh, they rested up and got healthy. How many times have we watched these teams come out flat in the divisional round after 2 weeks off? And they're playing a guy who is playing lights out right now. If Baltimore doesn't hit the ground running and CJ Stroud puts points on the boards quick, this game could be 14-0 before Baltimore knows it. They're still sleepwalking at the wheel. They're trying to wake up and play. Houston's defense, they could stop the run better than I think anyone left in the playoffs outside of San Francisco. They have one of the best rush defenses. They've shown they have ball hawks in the secondary. They can cause turnovers. I think Houston's got a real live shot to win this game. I think this spread is completely wrong. When I seen the matchup and I went back to it and looked at it and tried to guess, I try and guess the lines when I go through the games. Yeah. I thought this game was going to line out at like 5-6. When I seen 9, I was actually flabbergasted. I was like, this line is way wrong. This is the easiest bet on the board. Texans are going to win this game.
Okay. So you are really serious about that money line situation. All right.
Tyler, if you're right, the discourse on Monday is going to be disgusting.
Well, I'll jump in and give my 2 cents before it and then kick it to Jayme. Yeah. Earlier in the week, kind of was in line with Tyler, like the spread is too big. Then diving in a little more research, a little home road splits. Let's talk home road splits here. And again, it giveth and taketh away last week. So we'll see which way it works this week. But CJ Stroud's home road splits much, much, much better at home. And then coming to this Baltimore and playing this Baltimore defense, I think is one fear of mine. The other one is Lamar Jackson's home road splits. His elite games have been at home. He has 4 30-plus point DraftKings points. I know we're not talking DFS context right now, but he has put up some monster games at home, including against some good teams like the Lions, 49ers, Dolphins. I know they were a shell of themselves, Colts, all kind of playoff teams, if you will. So with that said, I do think if Lamar puts on one of those performances, that's going to be basically impossible to beat for a young defense and a young team. And so that would make me a little nervous about the money line. I get it. The value's there. I see everything you're saying. I think the home road splits lend itself to the quarterbacks in this way that favor Lamar. And that's what makes me nervous about the Texans spread. But Jayme, over to you. Where do you side on this?
So I haven't bet it yet, but I do lean the Baltimore side. But just to kind of back what Tyler said, I did see Lamar is 1-8 against the spread when he's a 7+ favorite. So that's obviously leans his direction as well.
Right.
But I'm with you. I think Houston playing in a dome, being a dome team, going to go on the road in Baltimore where it's going to be cold, it's going to be windy. Houston has been held under 20 points in 5 of 8 road games this year. They're in Houston's last 10 games. They faced one playoff quarterback, and that was Joe Flacco. Houston has faced one team in the top 10 EPA offensively, and that was Baltimore in week 1. I don't think Houston has faced a team like Baltimore. And I do get the rest thing that is a concern, because that is what I will be bringing up when we get to the San Francisco and Green Bay game. The fact that they did rest their starters in that last week, so it is multiple weeks off, not just 1 week off, which I do think could hurt. But I think Lamar is going to have a really big game. I think he's going to be very efficient through the air, and I think that Baltimore is going to be pass heavy from the get go. Like Tyler said, they are. I think they rank second or first in EPA per play allowed against the rushing. And then also I think like second in DVOA against the run. So Houston is a good running team. And I do think that Lamar in this offense is going to be able to put some things together. I think Zay Flowers is going to have a pretty big game. And I think Houston has kind of struggled against tight ends. We saw that last week against Njoku as well. And so obviously we don't know, but if Mark Andrews is going to play yet, I think it's still up in the air. If he does, and I think likely could have a really big game. And again, if Andrews plays, he might be on a limited snap count as well. But I'm going to lean towards Baltimore. Like I said, I haven't bet it. I don't know if I will bet it. Because the 9.5 is a lot of points, right? And Stroud has played really, really well. I think he has only 5 interceptions all year, and all those came in just 3 games. So he does but it kind of seems like when he does struggle, he might really struggle. And Baltimore, if there's any team that can get after him and make him kind of work, I think it's going to be Baltimore. So I lean Baltimore, not strong conviction, but I would side with Baltimore at 9.5.
Yeah, that's basically where I am too. I side with Baltimore, but not a super strong conviction. But Tyler does have a strong conviction. Spread, hearing all this, does this have you feeling one way or another any more?
No, I'm going to just give out some numbers here. And they're actually not going to help, but it's going to show you why I think this is a tough game. Houston 10-7-1 against the spread this year. Baltimore 11-6. Okay. Houston 5-3 against the spread on the road. Baltimore 5-4. Houston was 7-4 as an underdog against the spread. However, Baltimore was 9-5 as a favorite, right? So favorable trends for both teams here. When the spread was +8 to +11, however, Houston did not cover that game. When Baltimore laid between 8 and 11, they were 1-1. I don't know how much helpful that is. Houston was 4-1 against the spread as a road underdog. Baltimore 5-3 as the home favorite. The other trend that I wanted to point to, and hopefully this will segue perfectly for us, Meg. The total's gone under 6 of the last 7 times these two teams played. It went over in week 1, finishing on a total of 34. And from what you said, this weather sounds like it's going to be a lot worse.
I think it's nothing crazy conditions. It's just
crazy.
like it's just like it basically has a little more wind than Buffalo. I mean, I think Buffalo's going to feel colder, but Baltimore, I think, has more sustained winds. But it's not like one of those sustained winds that should like knock down a total, drastically or anything, or have a big effect on the total at all. So
I got a fun little exercise we could run through real quick just to talk about this Baltimore team. When you pull up their schedule and you look at it, and you know how it'll list highest passer, highest rusher, highest receiver for their games?
Yeah.
Every game they've played this year, Lamar Jackson was the highest passer or the highest rusher. Gus Edwards was the highest rusher, or it was Lamar, and one of their receivers was the highest receiver. They dominated everything.
Mm-hmm.
But now let's touch back through that schedule. They played Houston week 1 when all their offensive linemen were out and Stroud was running for his life. Week 2, they played Cincinnati, where Joe Burrow was still dealing with the calf injury. We know he started the year slow. They beat them by 3. Then they lost the game to the Colts in overtime. They beat a P.J. Walker-led Cleveland team. They lost to Kenny Pickett. They beat Tennessee. They beat Detroit outdoors, where Spread nailed that one with the defensive scheme that the Lions run, that Lamar was going to shred that team. They beat Arizona. They beat Seattle at home. Seattle wasn't traveling well to Baltimore. They lost in Cleveland. They beat a Jake Browning-led Cincy team. They beat the Chargers. I can't remember if that was still Herbert or if that was the game Herbert went down.
It was Herbert. I remember because
it was Herbert because the line now was -3, and
I needed him for best ball, and that's when the Chargers funeral started. They just were playing.
Oh, was that the game he got hurt?
No, it wasn't the game he got hurt, but it was just when they were just playing worse.
Then they went into their bye week. Then they win the overtime thriller against the Rams, where they go back and forth with Matt Stafford. They beat the Jags when they were just falling apart. They beat San Fran. That is the most impressive win on the entire schedule.
Right.
That's the most impressive win for any team the whole season.
They beat a shell of a Miami team, and then they lost to the Steelers in week 18. Outside of that San Fran win, I don't know about you, Meg, I hear Philly's schedule from last year.
You're saying there's a lot of asterisk. Is that what you're saying?
No.
It's not as soft, but
Detroit's a good win.
They caught so many easy spots.
They caught easy spots. I see.
A lot of teams do. Can't we do that?
Even
same
the games
thing
that
for
were supposed
Houston?
to be hard, it'd be like, well, their quarterback's out, and it's like, oh, Baltimore's just going to walk in here and dog walk this team anyway. So I want to see that team get some pushback. They haven't.
Let's go to Houston. Who's their best win?
Year.
Who's Houston's best win?
They have not played very many good teams. They, like I said,
I would say Houston's schedule is easier than Baltimore's.
Well, yeah, because the AFC South play the AFC. They played the AFC South and North NFC South played each other.
To Houston.
Yep.
We can do this very same thing, and we won't go through the whole thing, right? But beating
we're
Arizona 21-16 without Tyler.
I'm also not going to sit here and belittle a 7 seed that fought their way into the playoffs when I'm trying to make a case for taking 9.5 points with them against the 1 seed who everyone thinks is a juggernaut that played a soft schedule.
He's making points for why he feels convicted on, potentially the money line and the spread. So I get it. I get where he's going. I think they're all good points. If we were in a court of law, I'd be very impressed there. So total. Any thoughts on the total?
What do you guys think of the under? That's where I'm leaning.
I kind of like the under, but I'm not. Again,
I ain't clicking that button with those quarterbacks on.
I was gonna say I feel conflicted. I feel too conflicted on that though.
I think there's a good possibility that all 4 of these games go flying over, and I think
that's what I hope.
If you sat here and asked me which one's going under, and I feel most confident in going under, Buffalo, KC.
Yeah, same.
I will say, Tyler, what do you think about? I mean, Houston's wide receiver core is pretty thin now, right? I mean, obviously lost Tank Dell, and then they just lost Noah Brown. So obviously you have Nico, who was a baller, but now we're talking John Mechie, Robert Woods as number 2, number 3. Obviously they have Schultz too.
Yeah.
I think so. That's my concern, right? Is that it is going to be colder. They are injury-wise, they're definitely the much more injured team than Baltimore, which generally happens when you play a team coming off rest, right? But So that would be my only concern. Do you like either one of Robert Woods or John Mechie, or you kind of just you think Nico's still gonna stay hot?
I think Nico's still going to stay hot. I mean, Marlon Humphrey's coming in this game with an injury. He's questionable. He might not even play. So he's going to get a beat-up corner to go up against anyway. So I think Nico keeps crushing. And as for, like, the secondary guys, like, I think Schultz gets his share of targets. But the guys like Woods, Mechie, even that Xavier Hutchinson that comes in, he's the fast guy. Mm-hmm. I think Stroud's just going to spread the ball out around those other guys to where, like, I don't want to sit here and tell you like Robert Woods is going to be wide receiver 2. He's going to get 8 targets, and it ends up being John Mechie because I think Stroud's just going to look for those open guys. Yeah. He's going to take whatever you give him.
Yeah,
like he's not going to force things. Like you watch him play, he's just like if you can't sack the man, all of a sudden the ball flies out and there's just some random guy standing there wide open.
Yep.
All right, so we don't have consensus on this one, but we had good debate, and that's always good too. Let's go over to Jayme's game, and I say that because that's his Packers that are traveling to the San Francisco 49ers on Saturday evening, 8:15 Eastern. 49ers are favored by 9.5, and the total is 50.5. I believe, yes, this is the biggest total on the board. So we'll still go same around the horn spread. I'll start with you. Any trends, facts, things that are making you lean one way or another?
No lean at all. I'm taken away from doubting Green Bay here. But my projections have this game Niners by 10. Not much of an edge. Total's gone over last 5 Green Bay road games. San Francisco has been pretty good at home, though, 19-4 straight up in their last 24 games. Some other things to look at, the 49ers have won 9 of their 11 games were double digits or more, so they would have covered this in 9 of their 11 wins. But we talked about the Eagles losing some coordinators, and while I don't think the drop-off is as great, DeMeco Ryans is he's in that Texans game now, right? He's not with the Niners.
Yeah.
And there has been some talk that coordination's weaker. And I would say last year's version of the 49ers defense was more fearsome or ferocious than this one. So I think there's good arguments on both sides. Once again, you get worried with both these games here with the bye team. One side's got an injury report that's got like 17 players on it. The other one has an injury report with 3 players. So we know the 49ers will be coming in healthy. Rest versus rest once again. I can't wait to hear where you guys are landing on this.
All right. Tyler, what do you think about this one? Are you going with the underdog on this one? Are you going with Jayme's underdog, or are you leaning into the 49ers?
It's a little tougher for me to back the guy in my background this week. I mean, I loved the matchup last week. The biggest thing about last week's matchup that I loved about it, Dallas couldn't run the ball. We knew they couldn't run the ball all year. That's been Green Bay's biggest weakness for the last, 5 years, that they couldn't stop the run. And we look across the field, and the best running back in the business is coming to town. That's the scariest part for me, because if they can't stop the run, I don't know how they win this game. Like, I think they'll be able to move the ball through the air as long as Jordan Love's upright, not getting sacked by Bosa and Chase Young. But it's just, can they keep up, or is San Fran going to play keep away with the ball and just let CMC pound the rock, get out of here with a win? They have time of possession that just kills Green Bay. So I'm not laying the 9.5. I'm probably just staying away from the side as of right now, just not taking a side. But I do think the Niners get out of there with a win.
All right. Jayme, give us a breakdown on your team, and what do you think here?
Packers are going to win a Super Bowl this year, guys. No, I'm just kidding.
Look at Spread's face.
I know. I
want to freeze frame it.
But just to back up what Spread did say earlier about San Francisco to start, the 49ers have won 11 games by at least 12 points, which is tied for the second most in NFL history. That's tied with the 1999 Rams. So that's obviously good for them, right? But so I took Green Bay at +10 earlier in the week. I like getting the 10. You know, when it gets to like 9.5, it's a little dicier, right? But I think Packers have a chance. And I think offensively, Love in this offense is going to move the ball. Like, even if you don't even look at from week 9 on, the Packers offense is, I think, 4th in EPA per play. Love is, I think, the 4th highest rated quarterback in EPA per play from a full season. Now, if you just look from week 9 on, the Packers have the second best offense, and Love has been number 1, right? So, like, I think we're at this point, I know it's hard for people sometimes because they still see the 7 seed and they still see the Packers got in at 9-8 and they squeaked in, right? But at some point, we're going to have to sit there and say that this is a good football team.
Mm-hmm.
They're extremely talented. Like, I tell a lot of my friends, like, about San Francisco, that I kind of call them the Avengers, right? Like, you got a really good head coach. You have a quarterback that doesn't turn the ball over. You have Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Debo, Ayuk. And I think the Packers, not to be biased, right, but I think they're a mini version of that. Like, they have a good head coach, and we talked about that before the season. I still think he's the best coach in that division. You know, like, I think we'll get to it when we get to the Lions, but I think the Lions are going to have a rude awakening when Ben Johnson leaves, and we're going to get a Nick Sirianni.
Hopefully come to Washington.
Yeah, you know, but like, I think Ben Johnson's really good, and I like Dan Campbell, but motivational speeches doesn't help you call plays. And I think Matt LaFleur is a really good head coach. And what he has done to this team, right, when they started off 2-5, their number 1 running back, Aaron Jones, was out. Number 1 receiver, Christian Watson, was out. Number 1 tight end, Luke Musgrave, was out. You're the youngest team in the NFL with an inexperienced quarterback. No one would have thought any differently of this team or LaFleur if this team just tanked the rest of the way. But instead, the opposite happened. This team got really hot. Not only did they get hot, Jordan Love played really well. Jaden Reed looks really good. Tucker Kraft looks good, right? Luke Musgrave looks good. All these guys have really starting to step up. And I think what Green Bay did against Dallas was really smart, where LaFleur won the coin toss and he took the ball. Mm-hmm. And that needs to happen. And I don't want to call 49ers a front-running team. But if you look at it, Purdy, when he is leading or tied, he has a 71 completion percentage, 26 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 123 pass rate. Purdy, when he is trailing, 63% completion percentage, 5 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 82.4 passer rating. I think the Packers' best path is they're going to need to score quick, right? If this game gets a 14-0 with San Francisco, it's likely over. You know, but if Green Bay can get a lead first, they put pressure on Purdy to make some of these big plays, and the defense can't pin their ears back and stop them, I think the Packers are going to have a better chance. And I know last week Spread was talking about the home road splits, and I think Green Bay is better on the road than they are.
Yeah, when I looked it up, I remember I kind of had to bite my words because they actually averaged 25 points at home. I'm going on top of my head, but it was 21 points at home, 25 points on the road. And I think that points per game, they're the highest road team. And I'm going on top of my head again.
Second.
I don't think anyone was – who was higher?
San Francisco.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
hanging that 48 last week probably bumped them up in the first.
It did.
Yeah.
They averaged 27.6 on the road, 19.4. 8 of Green Bay's top 11 games in EPA all came on the road. And as a Packer fan, I do not believe in playing in Lambeau Field in late January is beneficial to this team. Like Jordan Love and same with Aaron Rodgers, they grew up in California. Yeah. Like they're not. It's all cold weather does is increase variance, right? It makes offenses become not as great, and that's what happened when the Packers lost in 2021 to the Niners.
The Niners,
an offensive touchdown, you know, and they beat them. Like you would think, Aaron Rodgers.
Jimmy G masterclass.
So I think the Packers have a better chance than most people think. And something and this goes back to what Tyler said. What's going to be key is going to be the defense. Like I think Love in this offense is going to have success, especially against the run. The Packers have been the best running team in the league for the last 5 weeks. Aaron Jones has had like 100+ yards in 5 straight games. Like
right. So you still like Aaron Jones this week?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Even against this 49ers defense.
Yeah, 49ers defense ranks 26 in EPA per play allowed against the run. Like they're not a good run defense. They just aren't. The concern is A.J. Dillon might be back. I know that's kind of sounds weird that they're getting a player healthy.
Yeah. I
just get nervous with LaFleur, you know, doing what he kind of has done in the past, especially when it starts to get late in the season. He kind of transitions into the big, bulkier guy, the guy that doesn't holds onto the football well. But I think Aaron Jones needs to touch the ball 20 to 25 times in this game. But the defense is going to be key. And something I found that was kind of interesting is that Joe Barry and this defense, right, when they are I like it. When they played Tommy DeVito, they got shredded. Bryce Young got shredded. Baker Mayfield got shredded. But if you go look at the 3 best offenses that they played or 3 best quarterbacks they played all year, this team actually had a lot of success. Patrick Mahomes, and again, I know Mahomes and the Chiefs haven't been what they are, but still Mahomes, right? He's still the best quarterback in the league. Did not make him look, I think he had 1 touchdown with an interception that ended up losing them the game. Then let's go Jared Goff on Thanksgiving. Again, turnovers. Jared Goff, the Lions played really poor offensively. And then again, what happened last week? Dak and the Cowboys. So again, it's a small sample. It's only 3. But also Green Bay's defense ranks 3rd in EPA per play when Jair Alexander and Devondre Campbell are both playing. And again, that's a small sample of only 5 games this year where both of them have played. And to be honest, I just saw the injury report this week, or just like 30 minutes before we went on with Green Bay, and Jair didn't practice again. And Matt LaFleur, when I watched it, didn't seem too optimistic. Hopefully he will be able to go. And if that's the case, I will feel better about it. I think Green Bay has a better chance than most people think. I think that the offense can keep up. And I think if they're able to get a lead and make this team, the 49ers team, and make Brock Purdy play from behind, feel a little bit of pressure, what's going to happen, right? Like, and we talk about schedules. Okay, who would the 49ers beat? Their 3 best wins are the Eagles, frauds, the Cowboys, frauds, the Jaguars, frauds, right? They played Baltimore.
Can we say that about every single schedule, though? Who do we actually consider good? Baltimore, San Francisco?
I mean, Kansas City is a good team, right? I think Kansas City, Detroit's a good team. I mean, the only playoff team that they have played that's still in the playoffs is Baltimore, and they got absolutely smoked by them. They lost to a Cleveland Browns team with PJ Walker at the quarterback. They lost to Minnesota Vikings with Justin Jefferson was out, and then Joe Burrow smoked them. They lost by 20, I think, to them. So people are trying to make this 49ers team seem invincible, and I get it, right? I totally get it, but I just don't think that's the case. And I think people might be surprised if when they get punched in the mouth, how are they going to react? And I mentioned earlier, I do like Kyle Shanahan a lot, but historically, what has this guy done in fourth quarter games? He kind of blows games, right? Like if you look, Shanahan had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. They lost it. It had a 10-point lead to the Rams in the NFC Championship in the fourth quarter in 2021. Lost it. And then again, he wasn't the head coach, but he was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons. 28-3 in the first half. Blew it. So I like Kyle Shanahan. I think he's a good coach. But there's a lot more comparisons to the 49ers and the Cowboys than people think. 49ers haven't won anything for 30 years either, right? They've made the NFC Championship 50% of the time in the last 6 years. What do they have to show for it? Yeah. So it's just funny to me how everyone puts the pressure because it's America's team on the Cowboys. But 49ers, they kind of don't think about it. And again, if 49ers go to the Super Bowl and they win, no one's going to talk about it ever again. The 49ers haven't won anything either. It's been 3 decades for them as well. And they've been very close a lot of times and then blew big games, So that was a long spill just for me to say, I like Packers +10. And if you do like Packers money line, if you do think Packers are going to win outright, I think you might as well just take them to win the NFC. Because Packers can beat Tampa Bay, even though they did lose to them, right? But they can beat Tampa Bay, and we've seen them beat Detroit. So, if the Packers win this game, I think there's a decent probability that the Packers will go to the Super Bowl. And I don't know what that number is. I think it was 18-1 or something like that last I looked. I'm not sure.
I was going to say it has to still be pretty big.
Right. Yeah. Let me counter some of the stuff you said.
Okay.
You're going over the schedule. Let's denote that the 3 losses you mentioned, like when they lost to Cincinnati, there's no Trent Williams. So I completely agree with you. If Trent Williams is out, you see him get hurt during the game, live bet Packers. Okay? So I take those 3 away from you. Second, the Shanahan criticisms. Well, in the game that he blew the 10-point lead, he schemed up the perfect play. Jimmy just overthrew the guy, right? It's hard to blame the coach there when the guy was wide open. In the Rams loss,
10-point lead.
Okay.
So not just one play.
The guy had the ball in his hand, right? I mean, that was definitely a coin.
And that's just one score, right?
Pardon?
If he catches it, that's just one score. They lost by 2 scores. Well, they had a 10-point lead. He had a 10-point lead, so it took 2 scores for the Chiefs to come back and win. So I get the one play.
That's true. In the Rams loss, they should have won that game. The guy had the ball right in his hand. 50-50 game there.
I guess he has bad
luck.
luck.
On the 28-3, the defense has to give up all those points for that to happen. Like, I understand he deserves some blame for it, but he's not.
How many points did they score in the second half?
Pardon?
How many points did they score in the second half?
No, yeah, so you're right there. But I'm just saying.
This is a fun debate. This is fun. I wanted to get some popcorn here.
When spread hit me up, I was like, okay, let's go.
You came ready.
Okay.
I mean, we got Clyde
ready.
We got Clyde in the chat saying, "Who is this guy? He's spitting facts."
He is spitting
thank you. Good to see you, Clyde. And he is spitting facts. I love it. He's got me fired up for the Packers now, and very nervous about my playoff best ball shares because I'm highly exposed to the 49ers.
And finally, just a slight critique here, Jayme. You said, I don't want to call the 49ers front runners. Why not? Why not? This team is predicated on play action passing. Guess what happens when you're down by 10 to 14 points? Do you think the linebacker cares about that little fake handoff? No. So I think it's completely fair to call them a front runner and not even criticize them. That's the way the team's built. Every strategy that you implement, every scheme, every offensive philosophy is going to have flaws.
Yeah.
The flaws in the 49ers is they are play action dependent. So if they get behind, they become one-dimensional, and they don't have that air raid like the Chiefs, right? Where they can go 4 wide, 5 wide, and move the ball even when you know they're passing. Yeah. They are completely predicated on camouflaging their schemes. So my final critique is call those teams the front runner, because if you win this game or you even cover this spread, it's because Green Bay gets out to a lead early. Exactly. I think the back door is wide open in Houston. I don't think it's as open here.
Sure. I agree. Yep. I agree with that 100%. And something that's interesting is last week, Green Bay played 12 personnel at the highest rate they played. And that's something that kind of expected too, with the fact they had Kraft and they had Luke Musgrave. And they went under center a ton, and they ran play action a ton under center, which I don't think people realize how valuable it is. It's one of the best plays that you could actually run, because some people think that, to set up a play action, you have to establish the run. That's not at all the truth. You need to disguise whether it's going to be a run or if it's going to be a pass, right? That's how it works. And Green Bay has done really, really well at that. And I cannot, LaFleur, again, I know when we talked in, back before the year, I had LaFleur as coach of the year, 30-1. And I know that's not going to hit, but I'm telling you,
it was a good bet.
It was a good bet. Yeah.
I feel pretty good about that for what he has done. Like, these guys are wide open. Like, Love deserves a ton of credit, but I mean, for like 4 weeks, there's guys that are schemed wide open. Like what he has done, and I found this interesting as a fan. During the middle of the season, when Packers were 2-5, my hair out, and I'm looking through all the data, and I'm like, trying to figure out what's going on, because Green Bay was literally the worst team or the worst offense in the league in the first half. Love was like the lowest EPA per play in the first half. And then in the second half, they were literally the best offense in the league. And Love was like the second or third best EPA or quarterback by EPA standards. And so I'm like, what is going on? And the one thing that I found out was that the first half, Love was averaging, I think, like 4.5 yards per attempt. In the second half, it was about like 8 yards per attempt. So my thinking is that I felt like LaFleur wasn't unleashing Love, right? He almost had him on a leash. He was scheming a lot of little things, 2-yard out routes, right? Next thing you know, it's 3rd and long. And then eventually what happened is in the second half, they would have to. They were always down in the first half, so they would have to throw it. And these aren't like volume metrics, right? Like where it's like yards and it's skewed because, they were down by 10 or 15. Like these are efficiencies, right? Like completion percentage and all that EPA, like this is efficiency metrics. So like, I think that is very interesting. It's also important to note that Packers, right, when Love has over 7.4 yards per attempt this year, 9-0. When he is below 7.4 yards per attempt, 1-8. Last week, the Packers only threw 21 passes. 6 of those went for 20+ yards. This team is scheming the ball down the field. They are doing play action. They are getting guys open across the middle of the field. And I'm calling it now because I called it to my brother when we were watching the Lions game on Thanksgiving. First play of the game. Play action, down the field, Christian Watson. I'm telling you right now, it's going to happen. They did the same thing
Can
last
you tell us who, so we can play him in DFS? Is it going to be Christian Watson again?
Yeah, for sure. And this happened last year too. The first game of the year for the Packers, I can't remember who they played, but it was literally the very first play of the game. Rodgers threw a bomb to Christian Watson, went right through his hands, and then he went for the rest of the year.
And they didn't throw to him after that, huh?
You what?
Then Rodgers didn't want to throw it to him after that.
Oh yeah, he was done. He was done for like 8 weeks.
8 weeks, yeah. He was in the doghouse.
Caught 3 touchdowns. He's like, okay, this is my guy. But this team is so much better without Aaron Rodgers, and not just like, oh, Rodgers is the Hall of Famer, but like, think about it. If you're 40 years old, it's hard to kind of to gel and mesh with and relate to guys who are 22 and 23, and your expectations are so high. I think this team really gels, man. I think this team really enjoys playing for one another, and they don't know what they're not supposed to know, man. Like they feel very confident right now, and they're a good young team. Regardless of the outcome of this game, the future in Green Bay is extremely, extremely bright with all of these young guys, because they're gonna have some money in this offseason. Obviously, Jordan Love's probably going to get paid top 5 quarterback money now, but they're going to be able to bring in a defensive player or bring in someone else, and this team is going to be a threat for the next few years, I think.
You're definitely right about that. The future is very bright in Green Bay. I don't know, personally, spread, and Tyler, I don't know about you guys. I was leaning towards the Packers spread in this one. Still thought that 49ers come out of this with the win, but I was leaning, and Jayme has me sold. Tyler, spread, has he sold you on the Packers spread here?
Let me make a couple points on what he said. I don't think that was on the floor at the beginning of the season. I think Love was missing those throws. I remember him doing some wide open throws and DM and Tyler like, this guy is terrible. And I think that he just developed during the year and he started making those throws.
I do agree. Just a second point to that, though, is when you look at it from a first half to second half, that's the thing, right? Because in the second half, he was much more accurate, right? He had like, I don't remember off the top of my head, this is literally weeks ago when I did it, but in that time when they were 2-5 in the second half, he was completing almost 70% of his passes.
Do you think that's the difference between under center and shotgun? Do you think there's a correlation there?
Say what?
Was he going into more shotgun in the second halves? Maybe?
No, I mean, honestly, the Packers were running a lot more shotgun in general in the early part of this season. It wasn't too much difference of that. But like I said, the only kind of thing that I could see, and again, correlation, doesn't mean causation, but the 4.5 yards per attempt in the first half to 8 point something in the second half. He just wasn't throwing the ball deep. I literally remember watching this and telling my wife, I was like, this is the least amount of fun I've ever had watching this team ever. You know what I mean? Like, it was bad.
Those first weeks, I thought Jordan Love was out. I'm like, who are the Packers going to draft?
Yeah.
They're in the market for QB now.
Yeah.
And that turnaround.
It turned quick.
Yeah. It was fantastic. Last thing, Jayme, I got to ask you about this. Versus man, Jordan Love's coverage, 68.8 QBR, 23 TDs, 1 interception, 6.1 yards per attempt. Against zone, his QBR drops to 62.4, 8 TDs, 10 interceptions, 7.9 yards per attempt. So even though the yards per attempt's going up, the results are going down. Although against the zone of the Cowboys, he was 7-10 for 120 yards. We know the 49ers like to run the 7th highest rate of zone, and they gave up 5 TDs in their zone coverage this year, had 14 interceptions. Are you a little worried that maybe this matchup is going to be tougher, not only from a personnel perspective, but from a scheme perspective?
No, not necessarily. And I think the reason why is I would really have to dive in and look at the schedule and teams that play zone. Like, how many of those were just in the beginning half of the season, right? When I think that he was just not very good, right? Compared to the second half of the season, like you said, Dallas plays zone at a pretty high rate, and he had some success. And I mean, again, I don't know how many other teams in the second half of the season played zone, but I mean, he's been virtually unstoppable the second half. I mean, he has 1 interception in the last 9 games and 23 touchdowns. I would imagine some of those other teams also play zone at a pretty decent rate. So it feels like that might just be more of a split of first half versus second half of the season. Again, I would have to dive in a little deeper. And of course, the 49ers defense, they're better than the Cowboys, I believe, especially I think the pass rush. Like, the Packers did a really good job on against Parsons. Like, I watched some, I'm not a film guy, so I watch people that kind of are film guys. And some of the stuff they point out, like, Kraft absolutely destroyed that dude. Like, there were several times where he came off the side and he lit Parsons up, man. He punched him right in his mouth, and Parsons did not have a lot of success. Now, obviously, right, you're going against Chase Young and then you're going against Bosa. Those are two totally different animals. But Love handles pressure really, really well, right? Like actual pressure in his face. And we saw that last week, right? Like that throw that he had when he checked out of it when Cowboys sent an all-out blitz and it was cover zero, and he threw that pass right over the top to Wicks. Hands in his face, and he threw it. Like, I just think Love is playing at a level. He's playing at an MVP type level. And there's like, if you look at the numbers, he's right there next to Dak, was next to Purdy, right? Like he is playing at an MVP level. And I think that's still hard for people like to fully wrap around, right? Because of how bad he was early on in the season.
Yeah, I have to get the first half of the season out.
It is because we do this so much. Just like we always want to talk about a team that blew a lead rather than give the team the credit that came back, right? We view what we've seen at the beginning because we studied all summer, right? I remember texting Meg, oh, your buddy loves the Packers, right? Like, boy, that's got to feel terrible to have all those Packers in best ball. What ended up being fine.
It won the guy $3 million.
Better than fine.
It won guy $3 million. Yeah.
But because the anticipation is so much, we put so much stock into those first 4 or 5 games.
For sure. Yep.
Absolutely. Well, Jayme, I know this is a betting show, not a DFS show, but the oscillation and the ping-ponging of which receiver kind of goes off for Green Bay. There seems to be like there's no metric to say this is going to be the guy. And this could be for props too, right? Sure. Like there seems to be no like sign like, okay, against this defense, I want to target this receiver. This defense, I want to target this receiver. It just seems that just has been ping-ponging. I mean, Reed's felt the most consistent throughout the year despite his injuries, but like their route participation is close. Their, target percentage is all over the place. Like, who do you target this week in DFS or props?
Yeah, I agree. And that's tough. And I was actually just telling my buddy, I was like, I can already see next year in fantasy football, best ball, whatever it is, the tilt that people are going to have about like drafting. Jaden Reed's probably going to be the highest guy to go. But every week it's going to be different. And I think that's what makes Love so good, right? Is that like he just goes through his progressions. He doesn't have to force feed anyone. He doesn't have a guy. It's whoever's going to be open. And there are so many weapons. I do think Reed will have a bounce back game this week. I do think Reed's going to, 0 catches. And honestly,
that was brutal.
That's honestly me just picking the guy that did nothing the week before, right? And thinking, okay, he's really good, and they're going to probably get him involved. And I've always said that from the beginning of this year, after I saw Reed a few times, I was like, he's a mini Deebo Samuel. You know what I mean? Like how strong he is, his ability to run the football. I do like Christian Watson, and later when we get to some of the anytime TDs, I'll bring that up again. But I do think Watson is interesting, and that's only because this week he played in I think 40% of snaps, ran a route on
that should go up.
Yeah, like 30% dropbacks. And if you look back at the beginning of the season, he missed the first 3 weeks. And then when he played Detroit in week 4, he only played like 40% of the snaps and ran a route in like 35. And then the following week, he got up to 85, 90. And I don't necessarily think that's going to happen this time because the Packers realize how deep they are with Wicks and Reed and Bo Melton, and then the fact they're going to probably play 12 personnel more. But I think that number will jump up to like 65 to 70%. And I think Watson is just he's still the most valuable player on this team. And I just take it back to, like I said, I don't watch film, but I watch people that do. And someone pointed out like that play to Romeo Doubs, can't remember, I think it was third quarter it was. It was like the 30 to 40 yard pass down the middle of the field, and he was wide open. Well, it showed down underneath, Watson ran like a 10-yard route across the middle, and there's 3 Cowboys surrounding him.
Yeah,
so, like, teams are so focused on him because of his skill set and how fast he is that it leaves other guys open. I think if Watson plays 65 to 70% of the snaps, I think he's going to have success. Especially we've seen even historically, not as much the second half of the year, but the first half of this year and last year, 49ers kind of struggled against guys, with deep passes down the field. And I think that's Watson's specialty, right? He's extremely fast.
Oh, yeah. His default is beautiful.
I think he'll have a lot of success if he's able to play amount of snaps. But I still think it's Reed or Watson, and then the tight ends is literally it's a crapshoot.
Yeah, it's
the
tough.
Packers like Kraft, I think, a little more because he is a better blocker. Whereas Musgrave he's kind of more of your traditional wideout than he is like a tight end. So I still think those guys are going to split. But
that was a great long bomb that he caught last week too.
It was too, and he didn't fall because I can't remember when it was. Somewhere this year he
was able to stand there
and he tripped.
Probably waiting for the ball.
Yeah, wasn't it week 1? Because I drafted so much Musgrave in week 1, he just like trips and you're like, oh, it's happening already. Yeah,
I think it might have been week 1 actually. Yeah,
yeah. I think it was the first week. I was like, it's happening already. And then yeah, exactly. And then poor guy obviously had a horrible injury. All right, let's talk total on this game before we move on. I mean, first of all, Jayme, you did like just spit facts, and it was amazing, and I love it, and I appreciate all that information. But total, I mean, obviously, if we do think this could stay close, the total is high, but I do think we are going to get points in these two NFC games. It's a high total, but do you guys like the overspread? I'll go to you first.
Meg, I feel like the NBA model, I projected all 4 games to go under. However, I'm very wary of that. We talked about how because the stats are so different with this Packers team, I might not be getting an accurate projection on how good they are offensively. I bet you if I reran it from week 9 on and only use those inputs, it would have me going over. I'm fine staying away from this total.
Yeah. How about you, Tyler? What do you see for this one?
Just quick news out of the Baltimore game before I get into that. Marlon Humphrey rolled out, and they said Mark Andrews might not play.
Oh, well, if Mark Andrews doesn't play, then I'm firing up likely in DFS and props because you can definitely target Houston versus tight ends. That's interesting, but the Marlon Humphrey is big for your side and your pick. But thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, as for the total in this game, I'd probably lean over. I mean, I could see Green Bay's going to put points on the board. San Fran's basically had a week to prepare for this game. They said they started preparing in the second quarter. They knew the game was over. They said, all right, it's game plan time. So
that's sweet.
They were ahead of the game on that. I think you see a bunch of points in this game. 50.5 might be a little too high. Like I could see it getting to like 49, 48. You're like, I need that field goal to win me this bet. And you don't get it in the end, but they're going to get close to that total.
Yeah, it is a big number, so I don't think I'll do it, but it is tempting. Jayme, or is that something you'd pull the trigger on?
I'm not going to do it. I think just because I think if this was simulated out 10,000 times, right, and if Green Bay wins the game, I think it naturally probably hits under because I think the 49ers likely don't score a lot. I think it's going to be tough for, the 49ers to score a lot of points and then Green Bay to also score a lot of points and beat them, which is, the way the teams match up. So I think I would say it probably goes over. I do. But I think if Green Bay wins the game, I think it goes under.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense. All right. Anything else on this game, guys, before we go over to Sunday's games?
Just one thing. If Jamie's right about that Christian Watson play action pass on the first play of the game, that receiving prop of 28 yards is probably cashing on the first play of the game.
That's true. Yeah. Nice call. Sure. I like it. Okay, then we head over to Sunday, and we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to my adopted Lions. Lions are favored by 6.5, and total is 49.5. This one, obviously, this is the only dome game on the weekend. We have 2 pass funnel defenses, which is what I love to target and DFS and props on this one. You can't run on these teams, but you can pass all over them. So love that. We can talk about that more in props later, but spread, break this one down for me.
All right. My projections have this as a 25-20 win for the Detroit Lions, which would tell me to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I'm not necessarily jumping in on that one yet. However, Tampa Bay is 8-1 against the spread in their last 9 road games. Detroit 7-1 straight up in their last 8 home games. Detroit total's gone over in 4 of their last 5 games. One of my main concerns here in betting the projections is just looking at the game they played earlier this season, where it was 20-6, and it didn't even feel close. It did not even feel close. Now I know that Tampa's somewhat improved since then, but I don't know if I'm ready to really buy into that. I think this is a great matchup for Detroit. I think Detroit has a balanced offense, and I think they'll be fine attacking the secondary. I don't think that they're dependent on the run game. So although we know that Tampa is strong against the run, I don't think that's going to completely bottle up Detroit's abilities to score. So another tough one for me because my projections, like the Buccaneers, although I'm kind of leaning towards the Lions, haven't jumped in yet. Can't wait to hear what you guys think.
Yeah, I'll say real quick. I listened to a podcast last night that brought up good points that in that game, Baker was kind of off. He had a couple wide open. There were still guys, Mike Evans, I believe Trey Palmer, that blew past guys wide open. and he just missed them. So, these missed opportunities sometimes are, we're in a game of, small sample size, inches, whatever, or just one or two big plays. So that was missed, but yeah, they played bad that game, and Detroit played great. And obviously Goff, I think, threw for 3 touchdowns at over 350 yards that game. So yeah, I lean Detroit, but I do worry that they get a little too conservative when they're up. And that's what makes me a little nervous on a bigger spread, just like last week. Obviously there was not many points scored in the second half. Detroit got conservative, and then Rams couldn't convert. And so, yeah, that makes me a little wary. Tyler, I don't know. Where are you on this one?
I think we're leaving one big thing out of that first matchup that we're going to have in the second one on the Detroit side. Do we know who took the majority of their carries in that game?
Craig Reynolds.
Well,
yeah.
Jahmyr Gibbs missed the game, and David Montgomery went out early in the game.
Yeah, it was Craig Reynolds, yeah.
I think that just adds an element to it. Like, yeah, you can't run on this Tampa Bay defense up the middle. I want to see Vita Vea try and chase Jahmyr Gibbs down if he bounces outside, because I don't think he can catch him. So I think they'll be able to run the ball a little bit. Goff threw for 350 yards on this defense outdoors, and now you're going to put him in the dome where his numbers are substantially better. They're both pass funnels, so I think the pass funnel forces more of Tampa Bay just to throw the ball. I think Detroit will still be able to run the ball somewhat. Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to have a great game. I can see Jameson Williams busting a big one for a touchdown.
He did in the first one, yeah.
Tampa Bay's a weird team to me, too. Like, they kind of stumbled their way into the playoffs. Like, we thought they should win that division. They were the best of those 4 teams. But in the end, I don't think any of us thought those 4 teams were really good.
No.
They catch the Eagles in round 1, who were dead at the wheel.
Dude, how pissed you think the Eagles players are when they quit on their coach to get him fired and he doesn't get fired? Bro, they must be. Oh my! They're probably like, what do we have to do?
Yeah, that's my only worry here. Is Detroit getting a gift in the divisional round where they're playing a team that shouldn't have advanced in the playoffs anyway, that wouldn't have been in if it wasn't for their division being so bad? I think this could be a Detroit smash spot. I don't think I lay 6.5. I think I just tease them down to a half a point. They get out with a win. If Baker and Mike Evans put together like a star-studded performance, which I think you could see happen against a pass funnel, that's the path Tampa Bay wins this game. So if you like Tampa Bay and you think they win this game, I think you go build like a same-game parlay like Mike Evans scores a touchdown, goes over 100 yards, Baker throws for 250, and Tampa's money line. Of course, you could still bet Tampa's money line straight, but you're going to get a nice price on that same game parlay.
Yeah, I agree. This week, they got away with it last week, but this week, I think if they were to pull out an upset, it would be.
I don't think Baker's beating Detroit with Trey Palmer.
With Trey Palmer
and
David Moore. Yeah, exactly. No, absolutely agree with you there. Jayme, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, this is my second bet that I actually have. I do have Tampa Bay plus 6.5. And I will say, just to back Detroit just a little bit here, Detroit is 35-17 against the spread since Campbell took over in 2021, which I do believe is the best record since then. And Goff did have his season high in pass yards when they played these guys the first time. I think it was like 350 something, like you said, Meg. But the real issue here, I think Tampa Bay's defense, I think, is much better than Detroit's defense. And also Goff is a top 5 quarterback per PFF, which I know they've been in the news a little bit lately, right? But at least top 5 quarterback per PFF against no blitz. He ranks 22nd against the blitz. Tampa Bay is the top 5 blitzing team in the league. And Tampa Bay is just playing really, really well. And offensively, I think this team is pretty good. And I think this is kind of similar to what I feel about the Lions and Ben Johnson. So I have this here. I hope I don't butcher his name. Dave Canales.
Yeah.
The offensive coordinator for them. So let me just run through some of his stuff as he's been an offensive coordinator or he has been a quarterback's coach. Okay, so we start with 2018, Russell Wilson, 3,500 yards, 35 TDs, 7 interceptions. 2019, Russell Wilson, 4,100 yards, 31 TDs, 5 interceptions. 2020, Russell Wilson again, 4,200, 40 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. 2021, this was a mixture of Russell Wilson and Geno. They had 3,800 yards, 30 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, right? Last year with Geno, 4,300 yards, 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. This year with Baker, over 4,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. I think this guy is really, really good, and I think eventually he's going to get a head coaching job. And I think he is.
Yeah, you guys should interview him. I'm sold.
I think he might. I actually think he was on the list. I could be wrong. I think he was. On the list.
Yeah. I think he is. I did hear that. So I think he's gonna get a job soon. I think this guy he's very good.
If not this year, next year, probably.
Yeah, for sure. He's very good with quarterbacks. I do think it's interesting, like the parallels with Green Bay and Tampa Bay, right? Both teams lose their Hall of Fame quarterback, and then they both get better the following year, which they both did, right? With Baker and with Jordan Love. And I think I like Baker in this spot, and I will touch about this when we talk about props and stuff. And I do like Mike Evans, but I love Chris Godwin. I think Chris Godwin's going to have a big game here. I think the second half of this season, Chris Godwin and him have really turned it on, and I think Chris Godwin's going to be really effective. Like I bet already on a lot of his props already, his receiving yards, his receptions, and all that type of stuff, because I do think Chris Godwin's going to have a big game here. And Mayfield has thrown multiple touchdowns in 7 of 9 road games this year. He does play now, going to be playing in a dome. So I think that is going to be beneficial for them. So I like Tampa Bay here. I do like what Tyler said about teasing it down, because a part of me does think Detroit will end up winning. And I kind of, even though I am a Packers fan, I do think the best NFC championship game would be Lions versus Packers, right? Like 49ers is probably going to smash either one of these teams, I think. I don't think Lions physicality is going to be able to match up with the 49ers. And maybe I'm wrong, but Jared Goff on the road in Northern California, I don't see it going very well. But I think if it was Packers versus Lions, that would be a really fun game. And also, when we talked before this season about the NFC North, one of my biggest bets, which looking back on it as hindsight was like legit free money, David Montgomery over 5.5 touchdowns. Like that was what it was before the season. Like that was just, and I remember I even said I had him projected for like 9.5 or something like that. Yeah. It still feels light, right? Like it is just, he was just so clearly going to be in the Jamal Williams role. And he's a better version of Jamal Williams, So I think he's going to have success. I think the running game is going to have success. I do think Amon-Ra is going to have a lot of success. So I do like I think we're going to see a lot of points in this, but I do think 6.5 is a little bit too much. I'm very close with what spread has. I have it about like Tampa Bay should be like honestly 4.5 here. So I found a little bit of value on the 6.5. I wish it would got up to 7, but I don't think it will. So I went with the 6.
It might. Can you see that a Sunday morning thing? Here's the scenario where it goes to 7. Baltimore wins by 26. San Francisco wins by 25. That might be 7.5, right? If 2 favorites win on Saturday,
sure.
I think the favorite will get pounded.
Okay, gotcha.
I can see that.
That's my guess. It could be the other way. People could also say, well, the underdogs are due. But my guess is if we see 2 blowouts, that gets to 7.
Sure.
Okay.
I could see that. So if it gets to 7, I will really like it. But I still like it at plus 6.5. I just think this is going to be a game with full of margins, right? Like I think it's going to be very, very. I think it's going to be a close game. I think we're going to see the offenses both go, and I do think. I think Goff's going to get a little bit of pressure here. Like I think he's going to get hit a lot, and I do think though it's still in a dome, still in Detroit, so he's still going to have success overall. So I like a lot of things here, and we talk even about the props and stuff. That will be the game I mainly talk about because we're going to see a lot of points in this one. And this is honestly outside of being a Packer fan and being most excited about the Packers. And then I'm excited for the Chiefs in Buffalo, but I'm honestly most excited for Tampa Bay Detroit because I do think it's in it. It's in a dome, man, and games. I as a Packer fan, everyone makes fun of me when I say this because it's Lambeau Field, frozen tundra, historic. But like, give me the games that are played inside of a dome with no bad weather, and just let these guys play at a high level.
I read a guy named Bruce Jenkins, right?
Yeah,
and he's old. He's probably pretty close to retirement. I remember reading this 20 years ago. He used to hate that frozen tundra stuff because this is how old he is. He said football was not meant to be the winter sport. The way sports were set up was football was supposed to go from August to Thanksgiving, Then we all go inside and we play basketball until March. And I'm going up the college schedules, right?
Right.
Yeah. And then baseball starts and we all run around in the sunshine. And back then, everyone was a 3-sport athlete. So baseball was the perfect active rest sport, right? Because these guys still got out there and they were active, right? But it doesn't have the same physical tenor of it. So I agree with you. And even looking at the poor guy, Tua Tagovailoa, look at all these paths for Miami. He's gonna have to go into a situation he's not prepared for
100%.
because all the other good teams in the AFC have this weather advantage. So I agree with you there. But I did give you the Pikachu shocked face because there's one main event this weekend, Jayme, and we're getting to it right now. This is the real main event. This is Rock versus Roman Reigns. Tyler, Meg, put it on the table for us. Chiefs and Bills.
All right, Chiefs, Bills, let's go. Though I will say I am tempted on the over this last game because I do think there's going to be points, but again, it is a big number. So, but anyways, you get all these guys' official plays on fanspeak.com, the betting card. It'll be updated for Saturday, for Sunday. So be sure to check that out on fanspeak.com. Okay, so of course we've got the finale at 6:35 Eastern. Chiefs at Bills. Bills are favored by 2.5. Total in this one is 45.5. Again, this is the main event. This is our generation's Manning versus Brady, right? Like you hear people saying that, this is in the AFC Manning versus Brady, though AFC has many versions of that. But yeah, but I don't think we see points in this one. We had that massive shootout 2 years ago in the playoffs, I think January 21. I don't, ever since then, there are 2 or 3 meetings since then have been, these like 20 to 23 type games. I believe this year's 20-17. Obviously had that big controversial call that everybody about the offsides and everything, but which he was offsides. Anyways, long story short is I don't see points in this game. I don't know. I keep going back and forth on the side. Spread, help me out there.
I think it's a tough one to get involved on the side. Look at the way the last game turned out. It turned out to be a difference of a foot.
Literally.
That was the offsides, and nothing to complain about there. There's no subjective call there. But my point is, it could have easily gone either way because he lines up right. And how much different is this game? Because he's been playing in Kansas City. So this is how close these two teams are. The rest edge, do you guys think that matters at all? I haven't taken a stand on this game right now. I have Buffalo by 3, I believe. Yeah, 24.7 to 21.4. So really close to the total as well. Although I would lean under on the total. Kansas City, 13-5 to the under this year. Buffalo, 11-7 to the under. So in our heads, we have these as these prolific offenses because they have the best quarterbacks. But both teams put significant assets into their defenses, and I think we're still falling back on that, one of the greatest playoff games we've ever seen, and not recognizing who these teams are now. So I haven't gotten involved on a side yet. I mean, I guess since I think it's a coin flip, right? If you give me the proverbial $100, give me the plus 124, because at least I'd feel like I'm making an advantage wager there, because to me, it's a 50 game and I get plus 120. However, I do like the under much better than taking a side here. What do you guys think, though? Do you think the rest matters? Am I leaving money on the table? I know, Tyler, you've been pretty high on your favorite quarterback, Mr. Potato Head, all year.
I was gonna say, let's go to Tyler next. I know you got a Buffalo ticket in hand. So yeah, tell us where you stand on this one.
I stick to my guns, Meg. I take Buffalo.
Yeah, stick to the guns.
I said it when we did the breakdown last week. I said KC was going to look like world beaters in round 1. They're going to play Miami in a frozen tundra, and they're going to look great. They did. I can't sit here and put the glasses on now and be like, oh, they're back. Because if you go look at how that game played and go look at how they spread out the ball, Pacheco ran it 24 times. Rice caught it 12. Kelsey caught it 10. Next closest guy caught 1 ball. They are 3 guys, and that is it.
Mm-hmm.
They were playing Miami, who was injury-riddled. They had nothing, and they were playing in sub-zero temperatures when they're from Miami. Those guys wanted nothing to do with that game. Kansas City was just able to play their game, win it pretty easily. Now they're going to play a team that can care less about the weather. It could be frozen on the field. There could be 6 inches of snow falling from the sky. Buffalo don't care. They're going to play football. Josh Allen's going to run the ball well. So is James Cook. I'm with Meg. I don't think you see many points here. And I think all they have to do is stop one guy. If you can limit one of their pass catchers, you're forcing them to beat you with one guy. So I got to stick to my guns. I think Buffalo is going to get out of here with a win. It's going to be ugly, but they're going to get out.
Yeah, I think it could be ugly. To that point, I've been leaning Buffalo, but I'm a little bit nervous about the Buffalo injury report. A lot of guys on the defense injured, banged up, depth even.
I would be worried more, Meg.
Yeah, I was going to say, does that concern you?
Playing like a bunch of weapons. There's only 3 guys we got to worry about.
Right. Yeah, and the other side, that the only other thing that makes me fairly nervous is just how well Kansas City's defense is playing. I think this is the best version of a Kansas City defense we've seen on this Chiefs dynasty run. And this defense is good. Snead is good. We saw that last week, and that would have been no matter what conditions. I mean, I believe
you guys look at this Chiefs year similar to Brady's years, where we would give him like no shot in the playoffs, but he would win like 13 games. Because I think this is a little different. Like even those Patriot teams, when you watch them in those years, like, yeah, he didn't have many weapons, but they would still win a ton of games. They would still put up points. Like Kansas City was stumbling all year. They did not look good. Mahomes was frustrated. And like, it's one playoff game. I just don't want to be the guy that overreacts here. I'm like, oh, they're back to being world beaters again.
Right. I'm just a little nervous about the Kansas City defense, and, limiting digs. But then I think, Josh Allen puts on that Superman suit and can do Josh Allen things, especially, at home in his environment.
Unfortunately, Josh Allen things also include interceptions, Meg.
That is part of it.
Josh Allen threw an interception. Let me pull this back up. In 14 of his 17 regular season games.
Yeah, that was a lot. So, Jayme, where do you side on this?
In the postseason spread?
0. No interceptions against the Fighting Tomlins. So
Fighting Tomlins.
If you don't throw an interception against Tomlin, that's got to be worth 10 regular season.
He tried like hell to throw one, but the dude couldn't come down with it.
I know.
All right, Jayme, what are you thinking here? Do you like the under? Are you leaning Chiefs Bills?
I'm leaning Bills. I haven't put them in yet, but I do lean the Bills, and also lean the under. And mostly just because I think a reason why both of these teams haven't, they've mostly been unders for a majority of the season is that both teams lack explosive plays. I think KC ranked like 20th or 22nd, and Buffalo ranked like 19th or something like that. And when you're not getting chunk plays, it's just going to be harder to, to score over 45, 48 points, what normally is what their spreads are like on a week-to-week basis, right? So I do think that's a big reason why. But I do think getting Rashee Rice going is helpful. I'm not sure why Reed and them didn't realize this sooner, right? And like for half the year, his like routes per dropback was like 45%.
Right.
And like, what are we doing here? Like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, he played with Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes, 2 of the best ball throwers of all time, and the dude's dust, man. Like he's just not good. He drops so many balls. He's just not very good. Kadarius Toney's not very good. It's like Rashee Rice was just so clearly the best receiver on that team, and he's now starting to get going. So that is one thing that I do think is a little concerning if you're, backing Buffalo or backing the under. I do think they could get chunk plays with him. Mm-hmm. But overall, I mean, since 2020, Buffalo is 29-6 straight up as a home favorite. This is actually the first time all year that KC is not favored. It did happen in week 18, but that's when they rested their starters, so that obviously does not count. But something that I did find interesting is Kansas City is 2-6 when allowing 17 or more points. And I think Buffalo is going to get over 17 points. I don't think Buffalo is going to put up 30 by any means, but I think Buffalo, I have them around 24 to 25 points. And I think Buffalo should win this game, but it is tough, because for me, I agree with what Spread said. Like I do like Josh Allen a lot, but I have for years said Josh Allen is the poor man's Brett Favre. Like he thinks he can make every throw on the field, and he will make bonehead decisions when it matters most. I mean, we've seen it earlier this year. In the second half of the season, he's been much better, but like even the first game of the year against the Jets, like in the red zone, he threw like a terrible pass and then be intercepted. And we've seen it historically with him in the last several years. I think he is very good, but I also think that he can make a lot of mistakes. And Kansas City's defense is really good, right? Like you said. And I know we're going to talk about like the props as well. I don't have this down as a prop, but I did look at this earlier. And I normally don't take defensive props, right? But Snead, I think it's over like 4. I think it was 3.5 or 4.5. I can't remember, over tackles or sacks. And he's going to be on Stephon Diggs mostly. And we've seen a lot of times Diggs does get a lot of targets. And especially now with the new offensive coordinator, he gets a lot of short yardage stuff, right? He's not a big play guy, or hasn't been the second half of the season with Joe Brady. So I could see him getting, 5 to 6 sacks here, which I do kind of like that. But overall, I think this game is going to be pretty close. I do think it will probably go under, and I do think the Bills are going to win. And it is tough because I do think Mahomes is the better quarterback between the two.
It's
right?
tough. I think you got better quarterback and you got a better coach on Kansas City's side. And I'm not saying the question is how much are these margins
worth?
Yeah, how much better is Mahomes really than Allen?
Right.
And obviously Reed is much better individually, but let's take it as a staff as a whole.
Yeah.
Because Tyler's been really high on Joe Brady. And since Joe Brady's taken over,
they've been much better.
That was the spark that changed the season.
Yeah.
So when we look at these stats as a whole, I'll give the Chiefs an edge.
Yeah.
But how big is the edge? I like Joe Brady a lot more than Matt Nagy. I'll tell you that much.
Without a doubt. You're exactly right. And Joe Brady, I do have a little bone to pick with him for my Stephon Diggs shares that I had that turned to total dust ever since he got in.
But the team got better.
It did. You are exactly right. And most of it is because I think if you look at his average depth of target, Diggs, like early on, he was way more of an explosive play guy. And he's turned into a short yardage guy. He's running 4-yard routes and getting some yards after the catch. And
I think what happened was Allen was worried about keeping Diggs happy.
Yep.
And I think Brady came in there and said, you're not going to be happy. Deal with it. But he became the bad guy. Where I think Ken Dorsey, and I hate to say this, right, because he's a NorCal guy like me. We're all chill. We don't want to get in confrontation. We just want to let things go, right? I think he let that just fester. And I think Joe Brady went in there and became the bad guy. And I think there's a lot of pressure on Josh Allen at the beginning of the season to feed Stephon Diggs so we didn't get cut to these little tirades on the sideline and him throwing his helmet and pouting around looking like DeMarcus Cousins, right? And I think that we see the difference in leadership, and that's why coaching matters so much in the NFL.
No,
it absolutely does. Yeah.
You're exactly right. And I mean, we talked about this like with Nick Sirianni and then like potentially with Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson. But when Brian Daboll left Buffalo, that team took a hit, right? Like they were still competing, making the playoffs, but offensively they took a hit. And then now you see Joe Brady in, and now that team looks much, much better. And I'm actually with Tyler. I do have a Buffalo ticket as well from early in the season, 55-1. So
we're at 18, so you're doing better than us.
Okay, yeah. So I think Buffalo is. I think they're going to win. I think that they're honestly the best bet also to beat Baltimore. Like if it comes down to it, I don't think Kansas City is going to be able to beat Baltimore.
I agree with that.
Kansas City can beat Baltimore, but. So yeah, I lean Buffalo, and I do lean the under. I haven't taken anything yet. I probably will end up taking, Buffalo because it's nice to be able to get what was it 2.5 now? Is it still 2.5 or is it 2?
I got 2.5 right now.
2.5. I think this is a perfect game where you could tease the Chiefs up to 8.5.
Yeah,
and bet the 2.5 and walk away with 2 winning tickets.
Yep.
I'm so worried about that.
I'll tease this Chiefs team until I watch them actually.
I think there's a potential they don't put up 1 touchdown at all, and Buffalo gets that easy win.
You think? Yeah.
I like the Texans plus 8.5 a lot more than I did last week than I did the Chiefs plus 8.5.
I will trust this man who has a 31-3 touchdown to interception ratio in the playoffs to just keep it within 8 for me.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
That's fair. Yeah. Well, before we go over to props and anytime touchdowns, let's get, we talked it all through. It'll be up on the FanSpeak betting card on fanspeak.com. The NFL betting card will be updated again for Saturday and for Sunday. But let's get each of your favorite bets before we hit the props and anytime touchdown market really quick. Spread, what is your favorite bet on the board?
Oh, my gosh. It's so tough.
I'm making you pick.
I'm going between the Bills, Chiefs under, and the Ravens, Texans under. I'll go Ravens, Texans under. 43.5.
Okay.
Give me weather in both, but give me some of that win there in Baltimore, Meg.
Okay. Yeah. I got my space heater as my heat's broken in my office. So fun times here in Baltimore. All right, Tyler, best bet that you have on the board. I think you've mentioned a couple that you really feel convicted.
As much as I want to make it Houston plus 9.5, that seems like the popular public side. Everyone's lining up to bet that one. So as much as I love Houston, I'm going to give out the easiest teaser on the board. Kansas City plus 8.5, Detroit minus 0.5 point. Lock it in.
There you go. You got the teasers, folks. I like it. All right, Jayme, your best bet on the board. You going with your Packers?
I mean, a part of me wants to say Tampa Bay, but I mean, I gotta stay on brand here.
Stay on brand. Yeah.
Give me Green Bay. Like I said, I got it at plus 10. I think I would wait. I do think there's a chance it goes back up to plus 10 before the game, but if not, I still think it's going to be around 9.5, and you can take that then. But I would try, if you didn't get plus 10 earlier, to wait. 10 is a key number, so I would like to push, at the very least, right, if they lost. But either way, I do like Green Bay. Give me Green Bay plus 10 or plus 9.5.
Okay, I like it. Again, these will all be on the sheet.
What's yours?
What's mine? Mine is the Chiefs Bills under. I feel the most convicted about this game.
I'm glad I think the Texans won then.
Okay, yeah. When you said that, I was like, if he asked me, then I'm just gonna have to say me too, because I do think 49ers win, but I do think the Packers. I like the Packers spread as well. That would probably be my second one, but I really do think we're going to see another one of those just AFC battles and another like 21-17 type deal. So, anyways, all right. So that takes us to, let's hit the prop market super quick. Spread, you usually set this one out, but are there any props that you eyed up?
No, I'll let you guys take over.
Okay, Tyler, I'll go to you first. Jayme, I know you eyed up a few, but Tyler, which, and you can mention a couple. I've been now changed the sheet to like my favorite alt props because that's what I personally like doing. So I might as well record myself. So, but if you want to do line or alt, your choice. What's your favorite prop or props that you like are eyeing up this week?
Yeah, I'm not going to steal Jamie's the Christian Watson one because I think that's a great play. I'll let him give that one out. Love both the quarterbacks' rushing yards in the Kansas City Buffalo game up to maybe. I think I love Allen up to about 50 to 60. I could see Mahomes getting up to 50 also. He's going to run the ball a ton. So is Josh Allen. In the Detroit game, give me Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think he crosses 100 yards. I think he just shreds that secondary. Yep. I could see him crossing that. The one prop I think is easy money in the Green Bay game outside of Christian Watson. Jordan Love, 250 passing yards, even money. That's an easy click for me.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, and then of course I'll take a Nico Collins touchdown. I mean, someone's got to score.
Okay, well, we'll do touchdowns next, really quick. Let's do just props here, and I love all yours. I'm on board with all yours. So Jayme, let me hear your favorites.
All right, so I'm with also Tyler because I did take it. I won't mention it as mine, but I did take it earlier. Amon-Ra over 89.5 receiving yards. Yep. I do think he absolutely smashed them. He did last week too, and it was a much less favorable game script for them to do that. But there's four that I really like. So I got Godwin over 5.5. I also took his over receivings, but that actually went up like 4 to 5 yards, so I don't want to mention that. Godwin over 5.5 receptions. I like Gibbs over 44.5 rush yards. I think he's going to have a lot of success here. And I think, honestly, he could bust a big one on this team. I like Devin Singletary under 2.5 receptions. That's like a plus 115. I do like that. And then, of course, I got to go Christian Watson over 26.5 receiving yards. As we know with him, I mean, that just takes one play. Like it takes one play for him to get out there and get that. And this is also assuming that I think he's going to get to 65 to 70% of the snaps this week, which is a big increase from last week.
Yeah, I love those. I like that a lot. I'm going to go to the other side of the Tampa receiving core. I think they can both easily get there this week on this Detroit secondary. So give me Evans, alt him 80, 100. I think he's having a game. And then I agree on the other side of Amon-Ra. I think you can also, we saw, Jameson Williams. It was Josh Reynolds last week, but we saw Jameson Williams have a big deep ball. You can get deep on good past the secondary. So I definitely like Jameson Williams, alt that to 40, 50 if you'd like, because I think he could get a big deep one like he did in the Dallas game. So I like that in that game. And then I like the quarterback. I mean, I'm very just hyper focused on this game, quite honestly. And that's why when we said what's our favorite game, well, kind of this is my favorite game, especially for props, because I like both the quarterback passing props in this game. Especially you can alt Baker, 275, 300. So I definitely like 275 is plus 115. So I'm really hitting that game hard on the prop side, because what did I mention? The quarterbacks, I mentioned Evans and then Jameson. Because you had already mentioned the other receivers in that game. So I think we've well covered that game. Yeah. And if you could build a hell of a same game parlay with that, and if they all hit, that would be quite nice. So actually I might have to build that as we're looking at anytime touchdowns just for curiosity. Anyways, anytime touchdown spread, you like jumping in on this? Give me your favorite anytime touchdown of the week.
Yeah, he's treated us right all year. He has there's a lot of touchdowns and a lot of words in his name. Give me Amon-Ra St. Brown to get into the end zone against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I like it. Okay, Tyler. Did you say you're saving the Watson one for Jayme, or you could take him?
No, he gave out the Watson prop, the receiving yards.
Yeah,
I'm going Nico Collins touchdown. No more.
That's right.
He's looked great for CJ Stroud. I think he finds this guy in the end zone at least once.
Yeah, I agree with that. Even though I like Baltimore to win, I like that a lot. Okay, Jayme, are you going Watson touchdown too, or anything else? What's your favorite touchdown on the board?
The favorite one, I mean, I would love to do David Montgomery, but I don't ever like to lay money on it. It's like minus 120, minus 120 on touchdowns. And I love Godwin too, but Watson, I think I was plus 375 when I got it last night. I think nice. ESPN bet. I like that, but I also like Gus Edwards plus 135. And I know that Houston has a really good run defense, but they did last week too. And Kareem Hunt got in the box twice. I just think when you're able to get a team, sometimes you just kind of get rid of the cuteness, right? Like, okay, this team's, if they get inside the 5-yard line, what are they going to do? And we've seen it all year now with Baltimore. They just hand the ball off to Gus Edwards, and he has multiple games with multiple TDs. So I even think if you wanted to do like plus 600 for the 2 TDs for Gus Edwards, I think that's possible too. But yeah, so Watson would be my favorite little longer shot at plus 375. And I really like Gus Edwards at 135.
All right. I like it. Mine, I'm going to stay on brand. You got to go. He let me down massively last week in daily fantasy and props. I got to go Mike Evans. Come on, Fred. You knew it was coming. I had to go Mike Evans.
I thought you were going SLP. Sam Laporta.
Oh, well, he's a little injured, and he got the touchdown last week.
Okay.
Yeah. What did you say, Jayme?
Yeah, he did get in the box last week. Yeah,
he did get in the box last week, and I think he could again. And certainly getting some probably better value there, but I have to go Mike Evans and stay on brand, pretty much on my touchdown list every single week, and more weeks than not, he made me happy. So
by next year, Meg, we'll just be able to run a recorded video at this segment. I'll give out Amon-Ra, you give out Mike Evans. Right.
I was going to say we should count back the times that you took Amon-Ra and I took Mike Evans, because that would be quite a bit. All right. Well, you give me some final thoughts, guys. And I'm just curious. I have to build out the same game parlay with some of our favorite Bucks lines. But Brett, I'll go to you first. Final thoughts for divisional round weekend.
I just want to thank Jayme for jumping on. I'm going to tell you more off air, but you crushed it today. Yeah. Great performance. We're definitely going to want to have you come on more often. And just like I was wrong about the Cowboys last week, I hope I'm wrong once again, and we have a great weekend of football.
Yes.
I like it. All right, Tyler, final thoughts for this weekend.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun weekend. I think there's going to be some thrilling matchups. I think maybe you get 1 or 2 blowouts. I know there's only 4 games, but I think you're at least getting 2 thriller matchups. So just tune in, watch the games. Don't be like our guy Spread thinking every game's going to be bad.
Don't flip over to the NBA.
I mean, if there's a good game over there, you could flip over, but I think these football games are going to have your attention.
All right, Jayme, I have to echo Spread's thoughts. I mean, you crushed it today. We definitely would love to have you back. It was so much fun talking it out with you. And I think your Packers, you got a fun team to watch for many, many years to come. But no, you gave so much good information. It was a blast having you on. But final thoughts for this weekend?
Man, I appreciate it, guys. This was awesome. It's like everything kind of came full circle, right? From the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And we still had Meg's Lions in here. We still had Tyler and my Packers. Unfortunately, the Vikings Spread did not make it this year, but that's all right. That's all right. There's always next year.
Pretty close. We were pretty close
They
there.
were. And they had a lot of injuries too. So that certainly doesn't help when you're starting Jaron Hall. But I really appreciate it, guys. I had a lot of fun. And I'm excited for this game, man. All these games I think could end up being better than people expect. I know the main event is Buffalo versus KC, but I really think all three of these games could end up being some competitive games. I always think the divisional round is some of the best week in football, right? Yeah. Like wild cards, sometimes you get the flimsy teams, and some people might think Packers and Houston are those teams, but I think this is where we're going to get some really good football. So I'm excited.
I 100% agree with you. And to wrap up our Tampa, our Bucks Lions, if you guys want to build, and I will put this on the sheet, by the way, because I always do a couple lottos on the sheet. And a couple of weeks ago, hit two of the lottos, most of the season not. But this one, I believe in this one. We've got a lotto that basically was built with a lot of our alt props that we like. If you do Goff and Mayfield, 275 plus. If you do Amon-Ra St. Brown 100, Jamison Williams 40, Mike Evans 80, Chris Godwin 60, you get essentially almost 28-1, 27 plus 27.96. So that's your little show lotto for you guys. I'll be putting it in, and I will put it on the sheet. So this has been a ton of fun. I know these guys probably have to go do an NBA show, but we'll be back next week to talk more. Obviously the conference championship, but in the meantime, for this weekend, check out the NFL betting card with all these bets on fanspeak.com. So for Jayme, for Tyler, for Spread, I'm Meg. Thank you so much. Good luck this weekend, and we'll see you next time.